And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I am talking with Steve Smith. Now, Steve, first of all, thank you for squeezing me into your schedule, man.
Oh, it was not a problem. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Good. I am too. I'm so glad you're here. Steve is the owner of a coaching company called Growth Source Coaching. He's out in California, out by my son Caleb. Steve's they help business owners really become extraordinary leaders, which is really, really necessary if you're going to grow a business long term. You got to be a great leader. Help them become, I love the savvy business owners. So there's something there that we need to dig into, and confident marketing strategist. And I know a lot of people just really struggle with marketing. So I'm looking forward, Steve, just diving into that a little bit more. But before we get there, let me ask you, how in the world did you get to do what you're doing?
All right. So this was the most serendipitous thing in my adult life.
Okay.
2008 came along. I'd been in my former career, which was consumer products, for about 30 years, worked for 4 really great, very large corporations, did a lot of travel. I mean, was just getting beat up on the travel. And so I finally decided, I've got to get out and do something else. And I didn't know what that was going to be, but I remembered since I was 16, always wanting to have my own business. The problem was I didn't know what it was going to be, and I didn't know when it was going to show up. And so about 2 months into my just freelance networking and getting out and kind of getting acquainted with a community that I really didn't know because I was traveling for 18 years.
Wow.
I ran into this woman who her specialty was working with large company corporate executives to figure out what's a good business model match for them.
Oh,
And
how
so
cool.
I worked with her for about 6 weeks. And, she did this testing, and we did, I dove into the franchise modeling and all that kind of good stuff. And she finally came to me and she goes, there's an entire industry out there of people who you could really serve because of what you have learned how to do at a much larger scale. And she goes, you really need to be a coach. And so I thought about it and did some research on it. And I finally ended up buying into a very, very small boutique coaching franchise. Fell in love with the business model, with their whole philosophy. Unfortunately, they weren't big enough to sustain themselves. Okay. And in 2011, I mean, this is one of those things, I'm sure you've had these situations before, where I can remember like it was yesterday. 7:15 in the morning on March 11th, I get a call from the founder of the company. And he basically says, Steve, we've been struggling financially. Well, guess what? We're closing the doors. And after this phone call, you won't be hearing from me anymore. And so I hang up the phone. The phone was like, the call was 8 minutes long, right? Wow. So I hang up and my wife comes in, she's got coffee in her hand, and the blood must have completely run out of my face because she's like, what's the matter? And I said, it's all gone. Yeah. The 2.5 years and about $100,000 is what I had pumped into this thing. Yeah. It's all gone. And I thought, I'm not going to go back and do what I did before. I just don't want to go backwards. I've really grown to love this. Yes, yeah. And she goes, well, you're always telling me that clients stay with you way beyond their contract length. Why don't you just do it yourself? You don't need a franchise for this. It's one of those eureka moments.
Right.
And so I did. I spent about 60 days rebranding and repurposing all the material that I had acquired. And that's where I came up with Growth Source Coaching. And the primary difference, this is the interesting thing. This smaller company was really, really good at getting your head in the game, mindset, marketing, and selling. And if you could get those 3 down, pretty much everything in small business kind of takes care of itself. You can outsource all the other stuff.
That's right.
What I did was I reformulated what I offered, and I brought in the things that I had really become kind of a bona fide expert in the larger field, which was leadership development and management practices. So that's where leadership, management, and then the marketing all came in, because I realized that it doesn't matter what size company you are, you got to have people leading it. You got to have management practices that make it operate efficiently and profitably. And you got to know what audience you're marketing the stuff to. And if you get those 3 down, you're never going to fail.
That's right.
So Amen. Here I am.
Amen. Amen. I love it. Did you hear that? Oh, my audience, that's exactly right. You've got to have leadership. So over the holidays, I reread a book that it's on my shelf that I keep rereading. Is a CEO only does 3 things: And it's talking about the leadership, the mindset of a true CEO of a business, because you don't find a CEO flipping burgers most of the time, right? They have
Right.
practices and systems. We
Right.
call them systems, and people doing all of that. And then they've got somebody running their marketing because they're the CEO. And it's a great thinking book because it makes you really put yourself into that role of chief executive officer of my company that should run really for the most part without me in it, right? I have roles in my business,
Oh
but I
yeah.
shouldn't be doing I'm not writing books for my company, right? I've got
Well,
people who do that.
one of the things I run into a lot with small business, and these, when I say small, they could be 30, 40, 50 million dollars a year,
Right.
and have 50 or 100 employees. You get folks that kind of rise up to that CEO level where they're now running everything. The problem is they haven't shifted how they look at stuff. They're still
Right.
thinking very tactically, kind of in the weeds, what's on my desk today, as
Yeah.
opposed to strategic, meaning I've got to be looking down the road because nobody else is driving the ship. And it takes a while to get people to make that. I mean, sure, academically they understand,
Yeah.
right? But when you start getting them to do things that actually reflect that in their day-to-day operation,
Uh-huh.
that's where things can get kind of sweaty,
Yeah.
because it's like it's very uncomfortable to let go of things that you have kind of said, okay, this is who I am, this is what I do. I deal with all this crap that I've actually hired 10 people to do, but I can do it better than them, so I'm going to do it myself.
That's right. Yeah. And taking that role of leadership and thinking doesn't feel productive.
No, no, it's very cerebral,
It
you
is.
know.
And I work with my son and his job title, right? He's my chief operating officer, but underneath that, he's like, my job is to make Michael's business dreams come true. So he helps me to do what I'm best at. And he's like, Daddy, I need you thinking, coming up with big ideas that will
Right,
take us to the next level. And I'll
right,
figure out how to make them happen.
right.
But to sit down and think for an hour or two, and then you look at your notepad and you got 4 ideas, you're like, well, that was a waste of an hour. Well, no, it's not.
Right.
So, well, let's dive in a little bit, Stephen, and let's talk about small business owners. A lot of our audience are solopreneurs, or they may be a business with maybe 4 or 5 people around them, right? They're still
Yes.
growing. What are some ideas around what are some steps they can take as they think about becoming a better leader of their organization? How do you get past that sticking point of, I've got to hire somebody? Can I hire somebody? I don't know if I have the money to hire somebody. Because we all struggled there for a long time. So
Yes.
just breathe life into us. And what are some practical ways people
All
can
right.
grow?
Here's a couple of things that I find almost universally people either don't think about or somehow they sidestep, and then it kind of hurts them along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, especially if you're a solopreneur or maybe you're in a partnership, you've got a couple of people that are either direct employees or they're third-party contractors, but they're involved in your work.
Right.
The one thing you've really got to sit back and think about is, what does my inner circle look like? Who am I relying on for feedback, to hold me accountable, to make sure that I'm not leaking off into left field with some harebrained idea that probably has nothing to do with the business I've built? Okay. Are these people, are they of the same mind as I am in terms of what I'm ultimately trying to accomplish? And are they going to be true to that and be able to kind of tell me when I need to hear that what I'm doing isn't productive, or things like that? So a lot of times, especially in family businesses, the inner circle is the family.
Right.
And okay, so you love these people, you've grown up with them, you'll be with them forever as long as they're alive. They're not the best people to be in your inner circle.
Right.
You have to have good, solid people that can give you the guidance for you to stay on track. Because if you get off track, the company's following you.
That's right. Well, yeah, absolutely. Case in point, I did that a few years ago. I met somebody at a conference. He had this wonderful video business and he needs some help. I'm like, okay, we formed a little partnership. I started diverting my efforts. That business failed. Paperback Expert kind of went down. And all along, my wife's sitting there going, well, it's okay. Go ahead and do that. Whatever, I didn't have somebody to look me in the eyes and say, Michael, I love you. Stop it. Don't do that.
Right. Right. Because the thing for a lot of people that are freshly into running a business, they're getting used to, having the authority and the responsibility for that. The thing that bogs them down most is decision making.
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable making decisions, regardless of the outcome, you tend to sit and let these things fester.
Yeah.
And so that's what inner circles, really good inner circles, can help you with, is getting past the decision making, and getting on to the implementation. And
Yeah.
so that's one thing I tell people, it doesn't matter, 2 or 3 people. It doesn't have to be this big board, but it just needs to be people you trust and people that will help you always see the clarity of what you're trying to do.
And that's so important. So I'm in multiple, mastermind groups and things. And that's one reason I joined them, right? We joined another one. We had our first meeting 1st of January. He brings like 18 people together. And he says, folks, this will only work if you're really transparent. If you really share with us, if you're struggling or something, that's the only way you're really going to get help out of this. We're not here to judge you or connect. We're here to help you, but I can only help if you're authentic. And dude, you could just feel the air go, real.
Right.
And
everybody lets their guard down. Yeah,
they do. But so many times we're posers, right? Hi, Steve. Hi, Mom. My business is going great. Yeah, it's like, oh, shut up. Can I just be real with somebody? And we need that. And you're right. So many times it's not our family. Most times it is an outside source. And again, I'm a big proponent of coaches. I've got, so see, I'm a marketing guy. Okay. I've got 3 marketing coaches who speak into my business because I'm too close to my business, right? I need that outside input. And I have found, for me, paying a coach, being in a group program of some nature, has really helped, because they can look at me and go, Delon, don't do that. Or Delon, that's a brilliant idea. Do more of that.
Right.
And
right. That's what it's there for, to help you navigate things that are up in your head, but may not be suitable for publication.
There you go.
The other thing, I school people a lot in very early on is really getting your arms around the financial flow of your business. Ooh. I mean, do you understand? And I know this is going to sound kind of infantile and borderline stupid, but do you understand how your business makes money? And when it comes into the organization, where it goes? And when you're left with the few dollars at the tail end, why is that happening?
Right.
And I just run into so many people that are very passionate and they're very creative, and they're all over the place in terms of ideas, but they're not spending enough time really understanding why their business performs financially the way it does. And when you start getting into that and you get comfortable with reading a P&L and you get your bookkeeper to the point where they're sending you valuable information on a regular basis, you can start tweaking things and not add a lot to your calendar and improve your bottom line at the same time. But you just got to be willing to look at that stuff on a regular basis and understand what you're looking at.
Steve, get back. I'm an entrepreneur. I am not an accountant. How dare thee?
Right. And I get that. And I said, look, let the accountants put the numbers together. I don't want you sifting through it, but you look at the finished product and say, what is that telling me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Could I be running this business more profitably? Do I have too much cost in various areas that make no sense, that aren't adding to the efficiency and the output of what I'm providing my customers? That's a big one. The third one that I tell people about is, and it goes to what you were talking about earlier about scaling. Okay.
Yeah.
Figure out what your capacity is for whatever organization you've built to that point, and get yourself to about 95% of that capacity. So, I mean, you're driving every piece of resource you're using. Then on a separate list of add-ons that you're going to, okay, I need a sales guy. Okay. So when do I bring him on? Well, you bring him on when your business reaches here. And then when he drives it up to there, you bring on this delivery guy. So you have to have a priority list of the order and type of people that are going to enter into the business as it moves up in terms of revenue. Dude. And if you don't do it that way, all you end up doing is operating on sheer emotion, and you're going to end up not only hiring people and maybe not being able to pay for them, which happens, but you probably will end up hiring people that won't actually be able to help you take the organization up. So you're at the same level, you just got more expenses to operate with.
That's right. Yeah. And hiring people, finding out that sweet spot. So I've got one of my coaches, he talks about the hiring. He's got a whole formula. He's built a bunch of home inspection businesses,
Mm,
and he teaches home inspectors how to build businesses, right? And he's
gotcha.
got a whole formula of, I mean, it's a math formula. It's like 2A plus B equals
Oh
5 or
God.
something. But he's like, yeah, when your production, a single man operation, when you get to 10 appointments a week, that's when you hire your next marketing person. Then you hire your next, and he's got it all figured out.
Right.
Because most business owners don't, and we run it at that red line so much, and then we're like, how do you do it? So having that systematic approach to going, here, all right, I'm reaching it now. I need to start looking for somebody. Now I'm going to hire somebody, realizing that your red line might go down a little bit, but then you're going to go back up because there's a
Yes.
training mechanism, onboarding, all that. But then they're going to take you to the next level, and on
Oh,
and on.
years ago, I had a flooring installation company. Lady was in my networking group, and she came to me and she said, look, we need help because if we don't figure this thing out, not only is the business not going to last, but my husband and I probably aren't going to last either, And they
Yeah.
were operating out of their garage, and they were doing a couple $100,000 a year, just, with that kind of thing. And over about a 3-year period, we took them from the garage to a showroom at about $4 million a year, doing that exact same thing. They just needed to know how far to drive their model before the model needed to be added to.
That's right.
And once they figured that out and they were comfortable, putting out the cost of another salesperson or another installer or anything else, a showroom, going from a garage to a showroom. Once they got comfortable with that, because they understood how it worked and they knew that they weren't going to be out of pocket forever, the business would eventually kind of rise up and handle it. They went crazy. I mean, and they were good. They're still out there today. They're one of the best flooring companies in South Orange County.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see people who just, they know their craft.
Yes.
They never spent time learning the business side of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I learned that years ago with Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth.
Oh,
Right?
that's a great book. That's a great book.
That's really what he talks about.
Right.
And when you read that book or you listen to what Steve talks about, this is how you become a savvy business owner, because you understand leadership, but you also understand your numbers. And I love, how does your business make money? Well, I sell products. Okay, how does your business lose money? Because it loses money between there and net profit.
Right.
Where are you losing money in your business? Because a lot of times those are holes in your boat that you can plug, go straight to the bottom line.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yes.
And then the marketing aspect, that's my bailiwick is strategic marketing and credibility marketing, and saying you got to have that. But we can get you all kinds of great business from marketing and positioning and all that. But if you're not a savvy business owner, if you're going to lose money, if you're not going to charge right, if you're not going to hire people, what's the point?
Right.
And so going back to your first point of being an extraordinary leader, what's your vision? I tell people all the time, Steve, I've got an easy 50-year vision for my company, but more like I'm working on the 200-year vision for my company, because I know where we're heading. And that's the vision that our team rallies around. And why do we do what we do? That's all important. That's in that leadership area, right? Too many business owners, small business owners, are so into the day-to-day, I find, they don't have the time or the freedom to think. And so they never get to where you can take them. Do you find that as you work with people?
Oh, let me tell you, one of the things that I routinely do, and I'm always amazed at what comes back, is I'll tell a business owner on one sheet of paper, okay, no more, one sheet of paper, I want you to describe, look forward down the road. I don't care how long it takes you, just what you believe is the point at which your business has arrived. I want you to describe what that business looks like. How big is it? Where is it located? Who's working there? What are you doing? What kind of markets are you serving at that point? I want you to complete, and they'll say, well, I've never thought about that before. And I say, okay, think about this. Everybody has watched a drama series on TV where some big architect, mogul guy brings a few of his buddies up to the top floor of his office, and the whole office is all wide open, and there's this big giant table in the middle, and there's this little mini city built out in scale on top of the table, and they're all walking around and saying, oh, this is what XYZ city is going to look like in 10 years. This is my vision.
Yep.
I said, take that example and write down on paper what your company is going to look like at some point in the future, and you'd be amazed at what comes back. Sometimes people are like, I can't get all this down on one piece of paper. And other ones are like, they just don't have the capability to see three-dimensionally.
Right.
And you kind of have to do that if you're going to be all encompassing about what the thing's going to look like and how it's going to operate. But it is a great example of getting people kind of moved into an area of the business that they spend no time thinking about.
Right. And I think sometimes giving the entrepreneur permission to take that time and to do that. And
yes. Yeah, because you just said it earlier about, sitting down, thinking about the business, coming up with 4 ideas, and an hour and a half later and thinking, wow, that was not a very good use of time. And I get the same kind of pushback. I had way too much stuff going on. I said, but look at the stuff that you're spending your time on. To me, guarding the time that you choose to spend in your business is the most important thing that you can gain control over. Right. And I liken it to, I have friends in commercial real estate, and they'll always tell me about, some plot of land that has been undeveloped, and, developers are bidding on it and stuff. And they've got there's this term in real estate called highest and best use. So for a piece of undeveloped land, what is the highest and best use of that land? I said, your time is the exact same thing. What is the highest and best use of your time? And once you figure that out, you cannot let anything get in the way of that.
That's right.
If something does and it keeps showing up, hire somebody to take care of it for you. But don't let it encroach on the time that you have to spend thinking about where you're going with your business and what kind of decisions you're going to have to make along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. A phrase came to me years ago when I was in ministry. I was reading a book or something, and somebody gave me this phrase. I don't even know who it was. Do only what only you can do.
Yes.
And so in my business, that's where we've structured it after we're in our 11th year now, that I pretty much only do what only Michael can do. I've got people around me who do everything else. I can do lots of things in my business. I got my son chastised me the other day because I got into our CRM system and did something. He's like, why are you doing that, Daddy? I said, well, because he's like, no, that's my job. Stop doing my job. So we all drift, right? We all drift back, but it's
yes.
What is it that I do for this company that really only I can do? How do I spend 80 to 90% of my time doing that? Because that's where growth comes from. And business owners need to think that way if they're actually going to grow their business long term, right?
Well, and it's the same thing as for leadership roles. Most of the time, people who get tapped for opportunities to move up into leadership, whether that's supervisory management or director level stuff, things of that, running a whole facility, most of the time, the people that get tapped are the ones that have done their own job extraordinarily well.
Yes.
And so you go from doing your own thing to being responsible for a whole bunch of other people doing things.
Yes.
The mental transition is from me to we, but many of them never make that. They walk into the new leadership role and they're still focused on me. And I guess I shouldn't complain, because that's the reason I get calls left and right to help people change their viewpoint about what their role is, what they're most responsible for, and let everybody else do what they're being paid to do. You oversee, you guide, you develop, you do all that kind of stuff, you monitor, but you don't roll up your sleeves and knock somebody out of the way and do it because you think you can do it better. And so that is a very, very big mental adjustment that some people have a lot of difficulty getting beyond.
Yeah. And I find it's hard to get beyond that mental jump through a book or through a video series. I find for me, I need a Steve Smith in my life. I need coaches. That's why I'm in mastermind groups. And I need somebody who knows me well enough that I can be transparent with, and who can drop something in my lap that has been well thought out, because you've done this with dozens of people, and you're like,
right.
Oh, is that the path forward? And you're like, yeah, that's the path forward. Okay, thanks. It's so much easier, I find, just to talk with somebody or lay it out to a group and go, here's what I'm struggling with. And you just get great ideas. So I'm a big fan of coaches, masterminds, and people like you, Steve, who help business owners grapple with the things of business, but really starting with that mindset. How do we think?
Right.
And then what are the 2 or 3 core areas: leadership, personnel, finances, marketing. You get
Yeah.
those aligned pretty quickly, but businesses can survive and thrive when you've got good direction. And that's what you help business owners do, right?
Yes. I help them verbalize what's rattling around in their head.
Yes.
Because, we walk around all day long with thoughts and ideas and fears and things like that we're trying to figure out up here.
Yes.
And sometimes, and this happens regularly, and I'm sure you've probably had this example yourself, where you're asking somebody and they're trying to explain it to you, and right in mid-sentence of them verbally explaining what they've been thinking about for 2 weeks, the answer appears.
Yes.
And it's a strange phenomena, but what you think about versus what you hear yourself talking about can in many ways be two different things.
Absolutely.
And it's not until you hear yourself say it that you realize that's the problem.
Yes.
So a large part of what I do is just guide conversations,
yeah,
and get people to the point where they're right up against it and they can see it. It's this third party thing that I do a lot with people to get them to it's like an out of body experience, kind of take yourself out of your head and sit next to yourself and look back and say, what are you looking at? What do you see? And it really is quite amazing, because most people will say, wow, I never realized that before. And look, I'm guilty of the same thing. There's a lot of stuff that I don't realize till much later, because I've never been able to separate myself from my own inner thoughts and feelings, which many times don't serve me well.
That's right. Yeah. I was on a interview earlier today, and I was talking to the guy, and I'm like, one of the phrases that I learned years ago that I tell people all the time is stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself.
Yes.
Because I want to control what's going in here, and I can do that through goals, through affirmations or whatever. But if I just sit there and listen to all that junk, I'm like, oh, no wonder I don't go anywhere. So,
right.
Steve, where can people go to find more about you and what you do?
The best place is just to go to my website, which is growthsourcecoaching.com. I've got lots of videos on there that talk about certain aspects of businesses and what they face. There's tons of articles on there. My podcast is on there. So, I mean, my whole reason that I built the site is because I realized early on that coaching is probably one of the most personal professional relationships you're going to get into. So nobody is going to seriously look at me as somebody that can help them until they feel like they know me. So you go on my site, you will know me at some point. Then you can decide whether I'm the right fit or not.
That's awesome. That's one of the marketing principles we teach our clients is people will buy you more than what you do.
Right.
Because I mean, Steve, you know as well. I mean, executive coach, EFP, there are thousands of them out there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
I want to connect with somebody that I trust, though, that I bond with, because that's going to allow me to be more confident and more transparent, so that you'll actually be able to help me.
Yes.
And so I love the way you do it. So you hit his website, growthsourcecoaching.com. It's not going to be a high pressure sales pitch. Okay, guys,
no.
It's going to be, this is who I am, and this is what I do. This is how I do it. And I applaud you for that. It's very similar to how we structure our program as well, because I don't need the business. I don't need to sell you today. I want to help you. I want to serve you. Here's about the best way I can do it. If this makes sense, let's have a conversation.
Well, look, getting a coach is very similar to going to your health club and hiring a personal trainer. Yeah. And if you hire the personal trainer and you think they're going to do the workout for you and you get the benefit, then you're wasting a lot of time and money. And a lot of times people look at coaches almost like consultants, like I'm bringing you in so you can fix my problem, and say, no, I'm not going to come in and fix your problem. I'm going to help you fix it, because when you fix it, you own it.
That's right. And it's going to be a long-term fix, and you're going to transform and be a better person. You're going to become that extraordinary leader.
Right. Absolutely.
So, Steve Smith, this has been really fun. Thanks for sharing a bunch.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on.
You are welcome. So growthsourcecoaching.com is the place to go. Check out Steve Smith and see what he can do to help you become a better leader, better marketer, a better thinker for your business, so it can go where you would love for it to go. So Steve, thanks so much again. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you.